there, I'm the Star Wars guy, and today we're talking about Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and I'll be revealing what I consider to be the most up-to-date farming guide for ships in 2020. Shout out to Andrakis JL for helping put this information together, and on that note, if you want to join a community full of Galaxy of Heroes pros just like him, click the link in the description below and join our Discord server. Alright, we've got a lot of ships to discuss, let's get started. At the time of recording this video, which is early February 2020, we have 47 ships in the game with a few more potentially dropping very soon. I'm going to be placing each of these ships into one of 5 tiers. Now, since there are far less ships than characters, I'm actually going to give a very brief description as to why I've placed each ship where I have. We're going to start with the worst ships, work our way up to the best, but remember, within each tier, they're really in no particular order. Which ships you choose to farm will be based on your personal preference and which teams or factions you want to work on the most. This video is simply designed to give you a quick view of the best and worst ships currently in the game, so you can allocate your resources as effectively as possible. Note, the better the ship, the more difficult they are to obtain and gear up. Now let's get started. Up first is Tier 4. These are some of the worst and most useless ships currently in the game. First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter. Unfortunately, this ship just doesn't stand out in any way at all. It's a mediocre ship that can really only be slightly less mediocre when teamed with other better First Order ships. Jedi Consular'S Starfighter. It's rather telling when a ship can't make it into the meta despite its faction being otherwise completely dominant. Resistance X-Wing. This ship feels like it could have potential with the right allies, but when the Falcon was released, it was overshadowed in every single way. TIE Reaper. Once the most sought after and aggravating ship in the entire game, Reaper got a rework that almost completely neutered it. Now it has some mediocre protection regen and buff removal, but really nothing more. Wedge Antilles X-Wing. Another ship that has been close to being in the meta, but unfortunately, even in full Rebel fleets, it can barely find a place as a final reinforcement. Its pilot is better than it, which is saying something. Next, we have Tier 3, and we get our first look at a capital ship with the Endurance. Unfortunately, Endurance has never been able to make top meta off its own back. Whereas Negotiator and Malevolence are extremely powerful ships, Endurance was only ever meta because of the overpowered ships people used under it. Nowadays, it sits forgotten on the wayside, overshadowed by the Negotiator. B-28 Bomber. A solid tank with decent Sith synergies and an auto-taunt, Bomber makes a good tertiary fleet tank. First Order TIE Fighter. Once a powerful part of the meta due to his speed, damage output, and target lock synergy, First Order TIE Fighter is now a forgotten relic of a bygone time. Slightly more useful than its Special Forces counterpart, but still not great. Rex's ARC 170. Not a great ship, though it has some versatility in sustained fleets. Its greatest strength is having the Galactic Republic tag. Rey's Falcon. Used to have a place in some very specific fleets, but nowadays can barely serve as a slightly annoying reinforcement in tertiary territory war fleets. Scimitar. Once the premier reinforcement of the entire game, nowadays Scimitar is vastly outshone by many other ships. Sith Fighter. A fairly decent ship that can do solid damage and synergizes well with other Sith, but not meta-defining by any means. Slave 1. A vastly overrated ship that everyone used to use. It does a lot of things well, but nothing well enough that anyone wants to use it anymore. Now we're moving up to Tier 2. Up first, we have Admiral Akbar's Home 1 capital ship, a ship with lots of potential but is consistently outshone by EXECUTRIX and CHIMAERA. If not for Han's Falcon, it would have never been top meta on its own. AHSOKA'S Jedi Starfighter. Her huge damage output, buff removal, and Galactic Republic synergy make her a very solid ship. The BTL-BY-WING. A good strong tank that will replace Hound'S as the frontline tank for Galactic Republic fleets once a new meta arrives. BTL only sees fringe use now because Hound'S is so prevalent and powerful. Clone Sergeant's ARC 170. A great tank hampered strongly by the fact that his auto-taunt is reinforcement reliant. Ebon Hawk. This one is close as Ebon Hawk shares the same match-changing reinforcement ability as Cassian's U-Wing, but in almost all circumstances, Cassian is the preferable choice of the two. Ebon Hawk just doesn't have enough synergy in the game currently, and what it does have is awkward and unwieldy. Emperor's Shuttle. Another close one, since it would have been meta-dominant if only it had been released prior to Han's Falcon. Quite powerful, and elevates Sith and Empire ships somewhat, but unfortunately can't quite take Tier 1. Gauntlet Starfighter. A rather unpopular ship due to having such poor pilots, Gauntlet has one of the only 2 full team-wide cleanse abilities in fleet, making him fairly invaluable in sustained fleets. GEONOSIAN Soldier's Starfighter. Not quite as powerful or useful as the other Geos, Soldier fills an interesting place since he provides most of the assists that Geos are famous for, but otherwise is quite lackluster. The Ghost, a decent ship that can tank a few hits and has a wide array of abilities. Not exactly top meta, but useful enough, especially when paired with the Phantom. The IG-2000. Not a hugely powerful ship, but its unique ability set when put with droids, as well as being 1 speed faster than Anakin's ETA 2, make it strong enough for a spot in Tier 2. Imperial TIE Fighter. One of the fastest ships in the game with the ability to speed your capital ship up, and the highest dodge chance in the game. Sadly, it doesn't hold up in the most recent metas, but it is still a solid frontline Empire ship for secondary Grand Arena and Territory War fleets. KYLO Ren's Command Shuttle. A ship that many people have slept on, the Command Shuttle is a very unique support ship with a number of versatile abilities. It can also be quite annoying due to its propensity to regain protection from counterattacking. Plo Koon's Jedi Starfighter. Another great reinforcement for sustained fleets, he's able to heal and cleanse all allies. His damage and other abilities are lackluster, but he can force an ally to taunt, which can be handy. Poe Dameron's X-Wing. A great frontline ship for counter fleets, Poe can be excellent when paired with another fast ship. The other ship strips an opponent's protection and then Poe can one-shot them. Very handy, if somewhat irrelevant in the current meta. And finally, XANADU Blood. Great synergy with Houndstooth, and for a while was one of the top offensive ships in the game, but hasn't seen a lot of use in recent times. Moving on to Tier 1. These are great ships in the game at the time of recording. For capital ships, we have the CHIMAERA. Just like its pilot, CHIMAERA is one of the most plug-and-play ships in the game. Got a fleet that doesn't have a capital ship with synergy? CHIMAERA can do the job. Its insta-kill ultimate also still stands as possibly the most powerful ult in the game. EXECUTRIX. EXECUTRIX stands as the more powerful of the 2 Empire capital ships, but while it can spike higher, it requires specific ships and synergies to be strong. CHIMAERA is a lot more of an all-rounder. For character ships, we have Sun Fac. A longtime fleet powerhouse, Sun Fac's auto taunt has only become more and more valuable over time. Since the release of Ships 2.0, he's only gotten stronger with an irresistible stun upon reinforcing and his own stun on special. TIE Advanced Mark I. Vader's ship, like Sun Fac, has been a long-time powerhouse in fleet. Very high damage output, target lock synergy, unevadable basic attacks, buff dispel, and a killer reinforcement ability all contribute to make Vader's ship a high priority target on any battlefield. BISTAN'S U-Wing. Yet another long-time fleet mainstay, BISTAN'S amazing target lock synergy and unevadable basic attack have made him a Vader light since long before Han's Falcon came along to revitalize the entire Rebel faction. Now BISTAN does for Rebel fleets what Chewbacca did for Rebel squads. TIE Silencer. One of the fastest ships in the game and possessing a stun on basic as well as monstrous stacking damage, Silencer has long been the Han Solo of fleet and continues to be a handy ship to have on hand if you need to counter a stronger fleet. Cassian's U-Wing. Possessing possibly the most valuable reinforcement ability in the game, as well as a targeted high damage assist call, this all makes Cassian a powerful plug and play in any fleet. HYENA Bomber. HYENA Bomber is probably the second or third best tank in the game currently. He's extremely durable and able to target past taunt. He's just very, very solid. VULTURE Droid. A very unique ship with excellent offensive capabilities, admittedly somewhat lackluster without malevolence. BIG's Darklighters X-Wing. Yet another long-time fleet meta character, and the reigning tank before Houndstooth arrived. Big still slides into Tier 1 by the skin of his teeth simply for his sheer versatility as an auto-taunting tank with strong recovery ability. GEONOSIAN Spy. Spy is a hard-hitting powerhouse with the only mass assist ability currently in fleet. He's also very stealthy and hard to lock down, well deserving of a position in Tier 1. LANDO'S Millennium Falcon. Probably the best last reinforcement in the game, regardless of what fleet you're using. LANDO'S Falcon is especially good in sustained fleets. And finally, the Phantom II, a top-tier reinforcement ability combined with the ability to hit really hard and be an occasional pain in the ass to take out, puts Phantom in our Tier 1. We've made it to God tier. These are the best ships currently in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Let's start with the capital ships. It's no surprise the Negotiator's here, the ship that took Galactic Republic from decent to dominant by adding insane survivability and offensive power. It's also no surprise we see the Malevolence in God tier. An offensive powerhouse, Malevolence, like Negotiator, takes an otherwise decent set of ships and elevates them to insane levels of damage output. For character ships, we have Anakin's ETA 2. Hits like a truck, gains turn meter when enemies die, extremely fast, and has amazing synergy with Galactic Republic and especially the Negotiator, very obviously a God tier ship. Houndstooth. Probably the most overpowered ship in the entire game. It really says something when a ship is top meta since its release, and entire new ships and fleets have to have a built-in Houndstooth counter to be any good. And finally, Han's Millennium Falcon. This ship is the only reason Rebel fleets are any good. It actually carries the faction so hard that it limits possibilities for future Rebel ships, like Luke's X-Wing, for example. I hope this video gives you some clarity as to where you should be focusing your time and resources in-game. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click subscribe below for more Star Wars content every single day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.